Alicia didn't think her day could get worse until her boss fired her for being pregnant. Then the door slammed open, and the one man she never expected to see again walked in like he owned the place. Because apparently, he did. The Korean Mafia boss she'd convinced herself to forget was about to turn her entire world upside down. The words hit Alicia like a slap across the face. "You're done here," Mr. Patterson said, not even looking up from his clipboard. "Pack your things and leave through the back." She stood there in the break room of Rosewood Diner, her apron still tied around her waist, feeling the weight of 3 months settle in her stomach. The morning sickness had been brutal, but she'd hidden it well. Or so she thought. I don't understand, she whispered, her Malawian accent thickening with emotion.
I've never
been late, never missed a shift. You're pregnant. He said it like an accusation, finally meeting her eyes. His face was all hard angles and cold. Judgment. "We can't have you working in this condition. Customers don't want to see that while they're eating." Alicia's hands trembled as she untied her apron. 23 years old, alone in Charlotte, North Carolina, thousands of miles from her family in Lilongwe, and now, jobless. The father of her baby had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with her the moment she'd told him. Just another mistake in a series of mistakes that had led her to this country, to this moment. "Please," she tried again, hating how her voice cracked. "I need this job. I can work. I promise I won't. Security will escort you out if you make a scene." Patterson turned his back on her, dismissing her like she was nothing. Like the 6 months she'd worked double shifts, covered for other waitresses, smiled through rude customers, like none of it mattered. She was gathering her things from her locker when she heard it. The sound of expensive shoes on the diner's tile floor, moving with purpose. Then, voices rising. Not angry, exactly, but urgent. "Sir, you can't just walk back here. I can walk wherever I please." That voice. Deep, controlled, with an accent that made her heart do something strange in her chest. She knew that voice, knew it from late-night phone calls and stolen moments, and promises she'd convinced herself not to believe in. Alicia turned just as Jae Sung pushed through the break room door. He looked exactly like he did in her dreams. Tall for a Korean man, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. His dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp cheekbones and intense eyes. But it was his expression that made her breath hitch. The cold fury barely contained beneath his usual calm. "You," Patterson stammered, his clipboard clattering to the floor. "Mr. Huang, I didn't know. We weren't expecting. Obviously." Jae Sung's gaze swept the room, taking in Alicia's red-rimmed eyes, her bag clutched and shaking. Hands, Patterson's guilty face. "Explain to me why you're firing this woman." "It's policy, sir. We have standards. And she's in a delicate condition that she's pregnant." Jae Sung cut him off, moving to stand beside Alicia. His hand found hers, warm and steady, and she nearly collapsed from the shock of it. "With my child. Stop, take a breath, because the moment you hit play, the world you knew stopped existing. Welcome to the deep end. Around here, we don't do sweet. We don't do safe. We do the kind of love that leaves a scar, the kind that's as dangerous as it is addictive. If you're a regular, you know the stakes. If you're new, you're about to find out exactly why no one ever leaves this family. This story isn't a romance, it's a collision, and it's about to change you. Before the first spark flies, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city below. I need to see who's brave enough to walk into this fire with me. If you can feel the heat already, prove it. Slam that like button, subscribe to claim your seat, and ring that bell. Because in this world, missing a single second is a sin. Now, let's see who survives the fallout. The silence that followed was deafening. Patterson's face went from red to white in seconds. But I thought. She never said. Why would she? Jae-sung's voice could have frozen fire. When small-minded people like you treat women like disposable things. He turned to Alicia then, and his expression softened in a way that made her want to cry. Are you all right? She couldn't speak, could only stare at him with wide eyes, trying to understand what was happening. They'd been, whatever they'd been, for 4 months before she'd found out about the baby. Secret meetings, hidden conversations, stolen hours in his penthouse apartment, where he'd held her like she was precious. But then his mother had found out, and everything had fallen apart. He'd told her it was over, that his family would never accept her, that he was sorry, but this was how it had to be. So she'd walked away, found out she was pregnant 2 weeks later. Never told him, because what was the point? Jae-sung, she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. What are you doing here? Coming for what's mine. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Then he turned back to Patterson, all warmth vanishing from his expression. You're fired. Clear out your office by end of day. You don't have the authority to. I own this building. Jae-sung pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. And the one next to it. And the parking lot you use. Should I continue? He didn't wait for an answer. My lawyers will be in touch about the wrongful termination suit. The settlement will be substantial. Patterson looked like he might faint. He grabbed his clipboard and practically ran from the room, leaving Alicia alone with the father of her baby, the man she'd convinced herself she'd never see again. You own this building? She asked, because it was easier than asking all the other questions crowding her mind. I own many buildings in Charlotte. He was still holding her hand, his thumb tracing small circles on her palm. I've been having you watched. I know that sounds terrible, but I needed to make sure you were safe. When my man reported that you were being fired, his jaw clenched. I got here as fast as I could. My mother is in Seoul, dealing with family business. His eyes searched hers, desperate and determined. And I'm here, dealing with mine, you, the baby. Us. There is no us, Alicia said, even as her heart screamed the opposite. You made that very clear 2 months ago. I was a coward. The admission seemed to cost him. I was afraid of disappointing my family, afraid of the complications, afraid of how much I already cared about you. So I ran. I hurt you. I was wrong. She wanted to pull her hand away, wanted to protect herself from the hope rising in her chest like a dangerous tide. Why should I believe anything you say? Because I'm not running anymore. He reached up with his free hand, gently brushing a tear from her cheek with his thumb. Because the moment I found out you were carrying my child, everything else stopped mattering. My mother's expectations, the business politics, all of it. You matter. This baby matters. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving that to you if you let me. Alicia closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of his words. I don't need your charity, Jae-sung. I can manage on my own. I know you can. You're the strongest person I've ever met. His hand moved to cup her face, tilting it up so she had to look at him. But you shouldn't have to. Not when I'm right here, ready to be what you need. What our baby needs. And what about your mother? Your family? The words came out bitter. The ones who think I'm not good enough for you? Let me worry about them. His forehead touched hers, gentle and reverent in a way that made her chest ache. Right now, all I care about is making sure you're taken care of. You and our child. She should say no. Should protect her heart from the inevitable moment when his family's pressure became too much and he disappeared again. But standing there in that break room, feeling the warmth of him after months of cold loneliness, she was so tired of being strong alone. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice breaking on the words. Me too, he whispered back. But maybe we can be scared together. Before she could answer, her stomach lurched violently. She pushed away from him, barely making it to the trash can before she was sick. Jae-sung was there immediately, holding her hair back, murmuring soft words in Korean that she didn't understand, but found comforting anyway. Sorry, she gasped when it was over, embarrassed and miserable. The morning. Sickness has been awful lately. Don't apologize. He helped her stand, produced a clean handkerchief from his pocket. Have you been to a doctor? She hesitated. The clinic downtown. They said everything's fine. But I need to come back for regular checkups and I don't have insurance anymore, so his expression darkened. You're coming with me, right now. My personal physician will see you today. Jae-sung, I can't just... Yes, you can. He was already guiding her toward the door, his hand protective at the small of her back. And you will. No arguments. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the relief of not being alone anymore. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, like she hung the moon and stars. Whatever it was, Alicia found herself nodding. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. They were halfway to his car when someone called out, "Wait!" Alicia turned to see Maya running toward them, her former co-worker and the closest thing she had to a friend in Charlotte. Maya's dark skin was flushed with exertion, her braids bouncing as she jogged over. "Girl, what just happened?" Maya grabbed Alicia's arm, eyes wide with disbelief. Patterson just stormed out muttering about lawsuits and Korean Mafia and... Wait. Her gaze swung to Jae-sung, recognition dawning. Oh, the mystery man you wouldn't tell me about. He's the father? Maya. And he owns the building? Maya's voice had risen to a pitch that made several passers-by turn and stare. Alicia, I've been telling you to ask him for help for weeks, and you kept saying he wasn't in the picture anymore. He wasn't, Alicia said quietly, suddenly aware of how this must look. Like she'd been lying. Like she'd been playing victim when she had access to wealth and protection all along. It's complicated. Uncomplicated then, Maya said, but her expression had softened. She turned to Jae-sung, crossing her arms. And you? Where have you been, while my girl's been working herself to death and throwing up in the bathroom between shifts? Being a fool, Jae-sung answered simply. His hand hadn't left Alicia's back. A mistake I'm correcting now. Maya studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. But I'm keeping my eye on you, Mr. Mystery Mafia Man. You hurt her again, and we're gonna have problems. Noted. There was a hint of amusement in Jae-sung's voice now. And thank you for being her friend when she needed one. Yeah. Well. Maya hugged Alicia quickly, whispering in her ear. Call me later. I want all the details. Then louder. Take care of yourself, honey, and eat something. You're too skinny. As Maya headed back inside, Alicia let Jae-sung lead her to where a sleek black car waited, a driver already holding the door open. The luxury of it felt surreal after months of taking the bus, of counting every dollar, of eating ramen because it was all she could afford. This is too much, she murmured as they slid into the leather interior. It's not enough, Jae-sung countered. He pulled out his phone, speaking rapidly in Korean to someone on the other end. When he hung up, he turned to her. Dr. Kim will see you in an hour. She's the best OB/GYN in Charlotte. And after that, he hesitated. I know you have your own place, but would you consider staying at my penthouse? Just for a few days. Let me take care of you properly. Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to maintain her independence, to protect herself from getting too comfortable in his world. But her body ached with exhaustion, her stomach churned with nausea, and the thought of going back to her tiny studio apartment with its broken heater and loud neighbors. Just for a few days, she agreed, watching something like relief flood his features. But we need to talk, Jae-sung, about everything, about what this means, and what happens when your family finds out, and we will, he promised, taking her hand again. We'll talk about everything. But first, let me just make sure you're healthy. You and the baby. Please. She nodded, too tired to argue anymore. As the car pulled away from the diner, she watched Charlotte's streets roll past and tried not to think about how easily she was falling back into his orbit. Tried not to remember how much it had hurt when he'd left. Tried not to wonder if this time would be different, or if she was just setting herself up for another heartbreak. But when Jae-sung's thumb traced gentle patterns on her palm, and his dark eyes softened with something that looked dangerously close to love, she let herself hope. Just a little. Maybe. Just maybe. They could make this work. Dr. Kim's office was nothing like the crowded clinic Alicia had visited before. Everything was pristine, white, and soft gray, with art on the walls and comfortable chairs in the waiting room. The receptionist greeted them with a warm smile that didn't falter when she saw Alicia's worn clothes and tired face. Mr. Huang, Dr. Kim is ready for you both. They were ushered into an examination room where a kind-faced woman in her 50s waited, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. Jae-sung, Dr. Kim said, then turned to Alicia with a gentle smile. And you must be Alicia. Please sit. Let's talk about you and this baby. The examination was thorough but gentle. Dr. Kim asked questions in a soft voice, nodding sympathetically when Alicia described her symptoms. Jae-sung sat in the corner, watching with an intensity that would have been unnerving if Alicia didn't recognize the fear beneath it. He was scared, too. Scared something was wrong. Scared he'd already missed too much. Everything looks good, Dr. Kim finally announced, helping Alicia sit up. You're about 13 weeks along, which means you're in your second trimester. The morning sickness should start easing up soon. But, she paused, her expression turning serious. You're underweight and showing signs of stress and exhaustion. Have you been eating properly? Alicia's cheeks burned with shame. It's been difficult. Money has been tight, and I was working a lot of hours. That changes now, Jae-sung said firmly from his corner. Whatever she needs, whatever the baby needs, cost isn't a concern. Dr. Kim smiled at him, then turned back to Alicia. I'm going to prescribe some prenatal vitamins, and I want to see you back here in 2 weeks. In the meantime, rest. Eat well. Reduce stress as much as possible. She glanced at Jae-sung meaningfully. And make sure you have support. Pregnancy is hard enough without trying to do it alone. She won't be alone anymore, Jae-sung promised. As they left the office with a folder full of information and a prescription, Alicia felt the reality of the situation settling over her. This was really happening. She was pregnant. Jae-sung was back. Everything had changed in a matter of hours. Are you hungry? Jae-sung asked as they stepped into the elevator. There's a good Korean restaurant nearby, unless you'd prefer something else. Her stomach growled in response, making them both laugh. Korean sounds good, she admitted. I've missed I mean, I've been curious about Korean food. I never got to try much before. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe, or sadness. I should have taken you out properly. Should have shown you my culture instead of hiding you away like a secret. You were trying to protect your family's reputation, Alicia said, though the words still stung. I understood. No, you were gracious about it. There's a difference. The elevator doors opened, and he guided her out. But that's over now. I'm not hiding you anymore. I'm not hiding us. The restaurant was small and cozy, tucked into a corner of Charlotte's downtown. The owner greeted Jae-sung in rapid Korean, her eyes widening when she saw Alicia, but recovering quickly with a welcoming smile. My mother's friend, Jae-sung explained quietly as they were led to a private booth. She's trustworthy. And judgmental, Alicia guessed, noting how the woman kept glancing back at them. Probably, he admitted with a slight smile. But she makes the best kimchi jjigae in Charlotte, so I'm willing to overlook it. He ordered for both of them, explaining each dish as it arrived. Alicia found herself relaxing despite everything, watching his hands as he showed her how to use chopsticks properly, laughing when she dropped rice for the third time. I'm terrible at this, she groaned. You're learning. He reached across the table, adjusting her grip. His fingers lingered on hers. That's all that matters. The food was delicious, spicy and comforting in a way that made her realize how much she'd been surviving on bland, cheap meals. She ate until she was uncomfortably full, then sat back with a contented sigh. Thank you, she said softly, for all of this, for showing up today. You don't have to thank me for doing what I should have been doing all along. He pushed his own plate aside, his expression turning serious. Alicia, I need to tell you something about why I really left. Her stomach tightened with anxiety. Okay. My mother found out about us. Someone from her circle saw us together and told her. He paused, jaw clenching. She was furious doesn't cover it. She threatened to disown me, to cut me off from the family business, to arrange a marriage for me with someone she deemed suitable. Alicia's heart sank. So you chose her. I chose wrong, he corrected. I was 28 years old, and I let my mother bully me into giving up the woman I was falling in love with. I told myself it was for the best, that you deserved better than the complications my family would bring. But really, he looked away. I was just scared. And now, her voice was barely a whisper. What's changed? I have. He met her eyes again. When my man told me you were pregnant, something just clicked. I realized I've been living my life trying to please everyone except the people who actually matter. You matter. Our baby matters. And if my mother can't accept that, he took a shaky breath, then maybe I don't need her approval as much as I thought. That's easy to say now, Alicia said carefully. But when she finds out, when she comes here and starts making demands, then I'll handle it. His hand found hers across the table. I'm not saying it'll be easy. My mother is. She's formidable. And there are family obligations I can't just ignore. But I'm not walking away from you again. Not from our child. That's a promise. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this time would be different. But the memory of his rejection still burned. I need time, she finally said, to figure out if I can really do this, if I can trust you again. Then take it. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. Stay at the penthouse. Let me take care of you. And if you decide you can't forgive me, I'll respect that. But I'll still be here for our baby. Always. It wasn't a perfect solution. There were still so many questions, so many fears. But sitting there in that warm restaurant, feeling the ghost of his kiss on her skin and the life growing inside her. Alicia found herself nodding. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll try." The smile that transformed his face was worth every risk. The penthouse was exactly as she remembered. All floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Charlotte's skyline, minimalist furniture in blacks and grays, artwork that probably cost more than most people's cars. But there were changes, too. A soft throw blanket draped over the couch that hadn't been there before, fresh flowers on the dining table, small touches that made the space feel less like a showroom and more like a home. "I had my assistant pick up some things for you," Jae-sung said, leading her down the hallway. He pushed open a door to reveal a guest room that had been completely transformed. The bed was made up with soft linens in warm earth tones, the dresser stocked with what looked like brand new clothes. "I wasn't sure what size you wore now, so I got a range. And if you don't like any of it, we can go shopping tomorrow." Alicia stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. "This is too much. It's not even close to enough." He moved past her, opening the closet to show racks of maternity clothes, shoes, everything she could possibly need. "The bathroom is fully stocked, too. Prenatal vitamins, the special lotion Dr. Kim recommended, some ginger tea for the nausea." He trailed off, seeming suddenly uncertain. "I might have gone overboard." "You think?" But she was smiling despite herself, touched by the obvious care he'd taken. "How did you even have time to do all this?" "I made some calls from the car while you were getting your ultrasound pictures." He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture she remembered from before when he was nervous. "I wanted you to be comfortable here. Wanted you to have everything you might need." She walked into the room, running her fingers over the soft fabric of a maternity dress. It was beautiful. Deep purple with delicate embroidery around the neckline. The kind of thing she would have looked at in a store window and never dared to try on. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Really. Nobody's ever done anything like this for me before. Get used to it." He was leaning against the doorframe now, watching her with those intense dark eyes. "Because I plan to spend a lot of time spoiling you both." Her hand moved unconsciously to her still flat stomach. "I can't even believe there's a baby in here. It doesn't feel real yet." "May I?" He gestured toward her, tentative in a way that made her chest ache. She nodded, and he crossed the room slowly, dropping to his knees in front of her. His hands hovered over her stomach, not quite touching until she guided them down. Through the thin fabric of her shirt, she could feel the warmth of his palms. "Hey there, little one," he murmured, his voice gone soft and wondering. "I'm your appa, your dad. I know I'm late getting here, but I'm not going anywhere now. I promise." He pressed his forehead against her stomach, so gentle it made her want to cry. "You're already so loved." Alicia's hands moved to his hair, threading through the dark strands. For a moment they just stayed like that, frozen in a tableau of hope and fear and tentative new beginnings. Then her stomach growled loudly, breaking the spell. They both laughed. "I just fed you," Jae-sung said, looking up at her with amusement. "The baby is hungry again, apparently." She pulled him to his feet. "Dr. Kim said I need to eat small meals throughout the day. Then I'll make sure you have snacks everywhere." He was already pulling out his phone. "What sounds good? I can have anything delivered." "Actually," she bit her lip, "could we maybe just make something? I used to cook with my mother back in Malawi, and I miss it. Miss doing normal things instead of always taking handouts." His expression softened. "You're not taking handouts. But yes, I'd love to cook with you. Fair warning, though, my skills are limited to kimchi, fried rice, and ramyeon. That's 2 more things than I know how to make Korean style." She headed toward the kitchen. "Teach me?" They spent the next hour making a mess of his pristine kitchen. Jae-sung showed her how to cut the vegetables properly, laughing when she made them all slightly crooked. She told him about Malawian food, about nsima and chambo fish, and the way her mother used to make pumpkin leaves. He listened like every word was precious, asking questions and filing away information like he was storing it for later use. "You'll have to teach me to make nsima someday," he said, stirring the rice, "so we can give our child both cultures." Our child. The word settled. Something inside her. They ate sitting on the floor by the window, watching the city lights flicker to life below. It was comfortable in a way Alicia hadn't expected. Easy conversation flowing between them like the months apart had never happened. Almost like before. But better, somehow. More honest. "What do you want?" Jae-sung asked suddenly. "If you could have anything, what would your life look like?" She considered the question carefully. "I want to finish my degree. I was studying business administration back home before I came here, but I had to stop when my visa situation got complicated. And I want—" She paused, feeling vulnerable. "I want a family. Not just me and the baby, but a real home. People who stay. I'll stay." He said it like a vow. "Whatever else happens, I'm staying." "You can't promise that," her voice cracked. "People always leave. My father left when I was 10. The man I thought I'd marry back in Malawi left when he found out I wanted to come to America. You left. And I came back." He set down his bowl, turning to face her fully. "Alicia, I know I broke your trust. I know I hurt you. But I'm not those other men. I'm here because I want to be. Because the thought of you going through this alone, of my child growing up without me." He shook his head. "I'd rather face my mother's wrath 1,000 times than lose you both." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it physically hurt. "Prove it," she whispered. "Don't just say pretty words. Show me." "I will." He reached out, tucking a stray braid behind her ear. "Every single day, I'll prove it." Her phone buzzed then, shattering the moment. She glanced at the screen and felt her heart sink. It's the landlord. He's asking about next month's rent. "Tell him you're moving out," Jae-sung said immediately. "I'll handle any penalties or fees. I can't just move in here permanently. That's not... We're having a baby together," he finished gently. "And I have plenty of space. It makes sense. Unless..." His expression shuddered slightly. "Unless you're not comfortable being here with me." She looked around the penthouse, at the expensive furniture and the city views, and the evidence of wealth so far beyond anything she'd ever known. Then she looked at him, at the man who'd knelt before her earlier with such reverence, who'd cooked her fried rice and listened to her stories like they mattered. "What happens when your mother finds out?" she asked quietly. "When she shows up here demanding you end things with me? Then she finds out I'm not the obedient son she thought she raised." His jaw set stubbornly. "I meant what I said earlier. This is my line in the sand. She'll hate me. She doesn't know you." He moved closer. "And when she does, when she sees how strong you are, how you've survived everything life threw at you, and still kept going, maybe she'll understand. Or maybe she'll make both our lives miserable until you give in." Alicia sighed, suddenly exhausted. "I've seen how this goes, Jae-sung. In movies, in books, in real life. The rich family never accepts the poor foreigner. Then we'll write a different story." He took her hand. "Together." She didn't answer, just squeezed his hand back and let herself imagine, just for a moment, that maybe he was right. Alicia woke the next morning to sunlight streaming through windows and the smell of something delicious cooking. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memories of yesterday came flooding back. The firing, Jae-sung's dramatic appearance, the doctor's appointment, their evening cooking together. She padded out to the kitchen in the oversized t-shirt she'd found in the dresser, finding Jae-sung at the stove wearing sweatpants and an apron. His hair was adorably mussed from sleep, and he was humming something under his breath in Korean. "Morning," she said softly, not wanting to startle him. He turned with a smile that made her stomach flutter. "Good morning. I made breakfast. Or tried to. Toast and scrambled eggs seem safe. Smells amazing." She slid onto one of the bar stools, watching him plate the food. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." He set a plate in front of her, along with a glass of orange juice. "Dr. Kim said you need to eat regularly. Besides," he shrugged, looking almost shy, "I like taking care of you." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Jae-sung's phone started buzzing insistently. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "My mother," he said quietly. "She's been calling all morning." Alicia's appetite vanished. "You should answer it." "Later." He silenced the phone. "Right now, I'm having breakfast with you." But the calls kept coming. By the fourth time, Alicia pushed her plate away. "Jae-sung, you can't just ignore her. That'll only make things worse." He stared at the phone like it was a snake. Finally, he picked it up. "I'll take it in the office. Finish your breakfast." She tried, but she could hear his voice rising and falling through the closed door. Sharp Korean that needed no translation. He was arguing, defending something, or someone. 10 minutes later, he emerged, looking like he'd aged a year. "She knows," he said flatly. "About you, about the baby. Someone from the restaurant must have called her." "What did she say?" Alicia asked, even though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "That I'm throwing away my future. That you're using me for money. That she's flying here tomorrow to fix this mess." He ran a hand through his hair. "And that if I don't end things with you immediately, she'll cut me off from everything. The family business, my inheritance, all of it." The room felt suddenly cold. "Then maybe you should." "What?" He looked at her like she'd spoken another language. "End things with me." She forced the words out. "I won't be responsible for destroying your relationship with your family. Won't let this baby be the reason you lose everything." "You're not listening." He crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. "She can take the money, can take the business. None of it means anything without you." "You're being naive," Alicia said, even as tears burned her eyes. "You'll resent me eventually. Resent us. When you're cut off from your family and struggling and—" "I won't." His forehead pressed against hers. "I know you're scared. I know you think everyone leaves. But I'm not leaving. Not this time. Not ever." She wanted to believe him, but the fear was too big, too overwhelming. "Your mother will be here tomorrow," she whispered. "Everything will change. Maybe," he admitted, "but we'll face it together. Okay?" She nodded, but inside she was already preparing herself for the worst, already building walls around her heart because she knew that when his mother arrived, everything would fall apart. She just didn't know how right she was. The next 24 hours passed in a strange blur. Jae-sung worked from home, constantly on calls in Korean, his expression growing more tense with each conversation. Alicia tried to stay out of the way, but the penthouse suddenly felt smaller, like it was closing in on her. She kept thinking about his mother flying across the world to break them apart, kept imagining the confrontation to come. "Stop worrying," Jae-sung said that evening, finding her staring out at the city lights. "You're going to stress yourself out, and that's not good for the baby." "How can I not worry?" She turned to face him. Your mother thinks I'm some gold digger trying to trap you. She's going to hate me before we even meet. Then we'll change her mind." He pulled her into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. "She's stubborn and traditional, but she's not unreasonable. Once she sees how much I care about you, it won't matter." Alicia's voice was muffled against his chest. "I've heard enough stories from friends, from people online. Families like yours don't change their minds about people like me." "People like you?" He pulled back to look at her. "You mean smart, kind, beautiful women who are carrying my child." Despite everything, she felt her lips twitch. "You know what I mean. Poor, foreign, African. Wrong. You're not wrong." He cupped her face. "You're perfect. And anyone who can't see that, including my mother, is the one with the problem." She wished she had his confidence, wished she could believe that love was enough to overcome cultural differences and family expectations and centuries of tradition. But she'd learned too young that fairy tales were just stories. "When does her flight land?" she asked quietly. "Tomorrow afternoon." His jaw clenched. "She's staying at the Kimpton in Uptown. I told her she's not welcome here." "Jae-sung." "This is our home," he said firmly. "Yours, mine, and the baby's. She doesn't get to storm in here and upset you. If she wants to meet, it'll be on neutral ground." Part of Alicia was grateful for his protectiveness, but another part worried that he was making things worse, that drawing battle lines would only make his mother more determined to separate them. "Maybe I should talk to her alone," Alicia suggested. "Woman to woman. Maybe if she sees I'm not trying to take advantage—" "No," the word came out sharp. "You're not facing her alone. We're in this together, remember?" "But together," he repeated, softer this time. "I'm not hiding you anymore. Not from her, not from anyone." That night, Alicia barely slept. She kept imagining different versions of the meeting, each one ending with Jae-sung's mother tearing them apart. Kept seeing the moment when he'd have to choose between his family and her. Kept preparing herself for the inevitable heartbreak. When morning finally came, she felt hollow, exhausted, ready for it all to be over. "You don't have to come," Jae-sung said over breakfast, noting her pale face. "I can meet her alone first, feel things out." "No," Alicia straightened her spine. "If we're doing this, if we're really trying, then I need to be there. Need to face her." He looked proud and worried all at once. "Okay. But if she says anything that hurts you, we're leaving. Agreed?" Agreed. They met his mother at an upscale tea house in uptown Charlotte. Jae-sung had chosen it deliberately, public enough that she couldn't cause a scene, private enough for a difficult conversation. As they walked in, Alicia felt her heart hammering against her ribs. Mrs. Huang was already there, sitting ramrod straight at a corner table. She was beautiful, elegant in a cream suit with perfectly styled hair and makeup that made her look younger than her 50-something years. But her eyes were cold as they swept over Alicia, taking in every detail with obvious disapproval. "Yama," Jae-sung said, greeting her with a slight bow. "Thank you for meeting us." "I didn't fly 12 hours to be polite," Mrs. Huang responded in accented English, her gaze never leaving Alicia. "So this is her, the girl who thinks she can trap my son with a pregnancy." "Her name is Alicia," Jae-sung said sharply, "and she didn't trap anyone. We're both responsible for this baby." "Sit." Mrs. Huang gestured imperiously to the chairs across from her. They sat. Alicia felt like she was facing a firing squad. "How much do you want?" Mrs. Huang asked bluntly. "I'm prepared to offer you $200,000 to leave Charlotte, to end this pregnancy and disappear from my son's life. The room seemed to tilt. Alicia heard Jae-sung's sharp intake of breath, felt him tense beside her, but she kept her eyes on his mother. "I don't want your money," she said quietly, proud that her voice didn't shake. "And I'm not ending my pregnancy. Everyone has a price." Mrs. Huang pulled out a checkbook. 300,000 then. That's more than generous for someone in your position. I said no. Alicia's hands clenched in her lap. "I'm keeping my baby. Our baby." "There is no our anything," Mrs. Huang snapped. "You're a waitress from some African country nobody's heard of. You have nothing to offer my son except scandal and shame." "That's enough," Jae-sung's voice cracked like a whip. "You don't get to talk to her like that. You don't get to sit here and insult the woman I—" He stopped, taking a breath. "The woman I love. The mother of your grandchild." Mrs. Huang's expression flickered. Surprise, maybe hurt. "You don't mean that. You're thinking with your heart instead of your head. This girl is using you." "This girl has a name," Alicia said, finding her voice, finding her strength. "And I know what you think of me. I know I'm not what you wanted for your son. But I'm not using him. I never asked him for anything. I was prepared to raise this baby alone until he came back. Because you knew he'd feel obligated." Mrs. Huang's eyes narrowed. "Knew he'd do the honorable thing. Very clever. I didn't want him to feel obligated." Alicia leaned forward. "I wanted him to stay away, to live his life. But he wouldn't. He kept coming back, kept saying he wanted to be part of this. And maybe I was stupid to believe him. Maybe you're right, and this will all fall apart. But that's between him and me, not you. Everything involving my son is my business." "Not anymore," Jae-sung said coldly. "I'm 29 years old, Iyama, not a child you can control. And I'm telling you right now, Alicia and the baby are part of my life. If you can't accept that, if you can't treat her with the respect she deserves, then maybe we don't have anything else to discuss." The silence that followed was suffocating. Mrs. Huang stared at her son like she didn't recognize him. Then slowly, deliberately, she tore up the check she'd been writing. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "One you'll regret for the rest of your life. The only mistake I made was letting you dictate my choices." Jae-sung stood, offering his hand to Alicia. "Come on, we're leaving." As they walked out, Alicia heard Mrs. Huang call after them in Korean, words she didn't understand, but recognized as final, like a door slamming shut. "What did she say?" Alicia asked when they were back in the car. Jae-sung's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "She said I'm no longer her son, that she's disowning me, that if I continue down this path, I'm dead to the family." Oh God, Alicia felt sick. "Jae-sung, you have to go back. You have to fix this. I can't let you lose your family because of me." "You're not letting me do anything." He started the car, pulling out of the parking lot. "I made my choice. She made hers. But no buts." His voice was rough. "She threatened to disown me, tried to buy you off like you were nothing, insulted you in front of me. And you think I'm going to crawl back and beg her forgiveness? Think I'm going to choose her over you? Over our baby?" "You'll regret it," Alicia whispered. "Someday you'll wake up and realize what you gave up, and you'll hate me for it." He pulled the car over abruptly, turning to face her. "Listen to me. Really listen. I will never, never regret choosing you. Choosing us. My mother is wrong. Wrong about you. Wrong about this situation. Wrong about everything. And if she can't see that..." His voice broke slightly. "Then maybe we're better off without her." But Alicia could see the pain in his eyes, could see what this was costing him, even as he pretended to be strong. "I'm sorry," she said. tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize." He pulled her into his arms, awkward across the console but comforting nonetheless. "None of this is your fault. You didn't make my mother who she is. Didn't force me to fall in love with you. Didn't ask for any of this." "I should leave," she sobbed. "Should go back to Malawi or find another city or—" "You're not going anywhere." His arms tightened. "We're figuring this out. Together. Remember?" She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that they could survive this. But as they drove back to the penthouse in heavy silence, all she could think was that this was just the beginning, that more challenges would come, that loving him might cost both of them more than either was prepared to pay. And she had no idea how right she was. The next few days were tense. Jae-sung threw himself into work, constantly on calls, constantly typing on his laptop. He assured her everything was fine, that he was just dealing with some business complications. But Alicia knew better. She could see the stress etched into his face, could hear him pacing at night when he thought she was asleep. His mother had made good on her threats. From what Alicia could piece together from his side of phone conversations, Mrs. Huang was moving to cut him out of the family company, blocking his access to accounts, telling the extended family that he'd disgraced them, systematically dismantling everything he'd worked for. "You need to fix this," Alicia said on the fourth day, unable to watch him suffer anymore. "Go to her. Apologize. Whatever it takes. I'm not apologizing for loving you." He didn't even look up from his laptop. "She's the one who needs to apologize, for how she treated you, for thinking she could control my life." "But you're losing everything." "I'm losing money," he corrected. "That's not the same as everything. I still have my skills, my connections, my education. I'll be fine. Will you?" She moved to stand in front of him, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Because you look miserable. Because I can hear you up half the night worrying. Because this is killing you, and I can't watch you destroy your life for me." "You're not destroying anything." He closed his laptop with a sigh. "My mother is. By refusing to accept that I'm an adult, capable of making my own choices, by trying to manipulate me through money and family pressure. That's on her, not you." "I could leave," Alicia said quietly. "Just for a while. Give you space to fix things with your family. Then maybe once the baby is born." "No." He stood, pulling her close. "We're not separating. We're not putting this off. We're facing it head on." "But, Alicia," his hands framed her face. "Do you want to be with me? Honestly?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but not like this. Not if it means you lose everything." "I'm not losing what matters." His thumb stroked her cheek. "You matter. The baby matters. Everything else is just stuff. Things. It can all be replaced." "Family can't be replaced," she whispered. "No," he agreed quietly. "But maybe the family I'm building with you is more important than the one I was born into. Maybe that's okay." She wanted to argue, wanted to make him see reason, but he was looking at her with such fierce determination that the words died in her throat. "Come on," he said, taking her hand. "Let's get out of here. Go somewhere that isn't this penthouse for a while." "Where?" "Does it matter?" He was already grabbing his keys. "Let's just drive. Find somewhere new. Make different memories." So they did. Drove out of Charlotte into the North Carolina countryside, windows down, music playing softly. They stopped at a small roadside stand, selling fresh peaches and boiled peanuts. Bought too much of both, and ate them sitting on the hood of his car, watching clouds drift across the sky. "I used to do this with my father," Jae-sung said quietly. "Before he died. We'd drive out to the country and just exist. Away from my mother's expectations and the business and all of it." "How old were you when he passed?" Alicia asked gently. 15. He stared at the horizon. Heart attack. Quick. One day he was there, and the next, he wasn't. I think that's part of why my mother is how she is. She threw herself into controlling what she could because she couldn't control losing him. That doesn't excuse how she treats people. No, he agreed, but it helps explain it. She's scared of losing me too, of not being enough, of change. Are you making excuses for her? Alicia couldn't keep the hurt from her voice. No. He turned to look at her. I'm trying to understand her, so I can figure out how to move forward. Because cutting her out completely, that's not what I want. For me or for the baby. I want my child to know their grandmother. Want them to understand both sides of their heritage. Even if she never accepts me. She will. He said it with such confidence. Eventually. She's stubborn, but she's not stupid. Once the baby is born, once she sees them, he smiled slightly. Korean grandmothers are legendary for spoiling their grandchildren. She won't be able to resist. Alicia wanted to share his optimism, but she'd seen the coldness in Mrs. Huang's eyes, the finality in her voice when she'd disowned her son. That wasn't a woman who changed her mind easily. What if she doesn't? Alicia pressed. What if she stays stubborn? Stays angry? Then we'll manage without her. His hand found hers. It'll be hard. I'm not pretending otherwise. But we'll manage. They stayed out until sunset, talking and laughing and pretending for a few hours that everything was simple. That they were just two people who cared about each other, without complications or consequences. When they finally drove back to the city, Alicia felt lighter than she had in days. But as they pulled into the parking garage, she saw a familiar figure waiting by the elevator. Her stomach dropped. Maya? Alicia got out of the car, confused. What are you doing here? Her friend's face was grim. You need to come with me, right now. What's wrong? Jae Sung was immediately alert. What happened? Someone's been looking for Alicia. Maya glanced around nervously. Asking questions at the diner. At her old apartment. Saying he's the father of her baby. The blood drained from Alicia's face. No, that's not. He can't be here. Who? Jae Sung demanded. Who's looking for you? Alicia closed her eyes, feeling the fragile peace they'd built start to crumble. Malcolm, my ex, the one I thought was the father before. Before she'd realized the timeline was wrong, before she'd done the math and realized this baby was Jae Sung's, not Malcolm's, before everything had gotten so complicated. He's here, Maya said quietly, and he's telling everyone who'll listen that you're trying to trap some rich Korean guy when the baby is really his. And just like that, their problems multiplied. The confrontation happened faster than Alicia expected. Malcolm showed up at the penthouse the next morning, somehow talked his way past building security by claiming to be the father of her baby. The doorbell rang, and Jae Sung answered it, coming face to face with a man he'd never met, but already hated. You must be the sucker, Malcolm said with a smirk. He was handsome in a careless way, tall, broad-shouldered, with the easy confidence of someone who'd never really faced consequences. Paying for another man's kid, that's gotta sting. Get out, Jae Sung said coldly. Not until I talk to Alicia. Malcolm tried to push past him. She owes me that much. I don't owe you anything. Alicia appeared behind Jae Sung, her voice shaking with anger. You made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with me or this baby. Because you told me it wasn't mine, Malcolm shot back. Then I did some math, talked to some people, and realized you were lying. That baby is mine, and I'm not letting you scam some rich fool into paying child support. The baby isn't yours. Jae Sung's voice was dangerously quiet. I know, because I was there. I know the exact day this child was conceived, and you weren't involved. Prove it." Malcolm crossed his arms. "Get a paternity test. Let's see who the real father is." Alicia felt the world tilt, because the truth was, she wasn't 100% sure. The timeline was tight. There'd been one night with Malcolm at the very end of their relationship, then nothing for 2 weeks before she'd met Jae-sung. It was possible, unlikely but possible, that Malcolm was right. "Fine," Jae-sung said, noting her silence. "We'll get a paternity test. Dr. Kim can arrange it this week." "I bet she can," Malcolm sneered. "Bet she can arrange whatever results you pay for, too." "Are you calling me a liar?" Jae-sung took a step forward. "I'm calling it like I see it." Malcolm's eyes slid to Alicia. "You always were good at playing the victim, good at making men feel sorry for you. First me, now this guy. How many others have you run this scam on?" "That's enough." Alicia moved between them. "You need to leave. Now. Not until we settle this." Malcolm pulled out his phone. "I've already talked to a lawyer, filed for partial custody. You can't keep my kid from me." "Alicia, I have rights." "Rights?" She laughed bitterly. "You have rights? You told me to get rid of it. Told me you didn't want kids. Told me I was trying to trap you. Now suddenly you care? Now suddenly I realize what you're really after." His eyes flicked to the expensive furnishings, the city view. "You found yourself a sugar daddy, and you're trying to pass off my kid as his. Well, I'm not letting that happen. This is my bloodline. My legacy." "Your legacy," Alicia repeated flatly. "You work as a shift manager at Target, Malcolm." "What legacy?" His face flushed with anger. "At least I work. At least I don't whore myself out to the highest bidder." Jae-sung moved so fast, Alicia barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he had Malcolm shoved against the wall, forearm across his throat. "Call her that again," Jae-sung said softly, deadly calm. "Please, give me a reason." "Jae-sung, let him go." Alicia pulled at his arm. "He's not worth it." For a moment, Jae-sung didn't move. Then slowly, he stepped back, releasing Malcolm. "Get out. If you want a paternity test, have your lawyer contact mine. But you don't come here again. You don't talk to Alicia again. Everything goes through lawyers. Understood?" Malcolm straightened his shirt, trying to regain his dignity. "This isn't over." "Yeah," Alicia said tiredly. "It really is. You made your choice months ago. You don't get to change your mind now just because you're jealous." "Jealous?" He laughed harshly. "Of this guy? Of this situation? Please, I just want what's mine. If the baby is yours, and that's a big if, we'll figure out custody arrangements," Alicia said. "But you don't get to storm in here making demands. You don't get to call me names. And you definitely don't get to pretend you wanted this when we both know you didn't." Something flickered in his expression. Shame, maybe, or regret. "I was scared, okay? I panicked. But I've had time to think and now it's too late." She moved toward the door. "You should go." He looked like he wanted to argue, but Jae-sung's presence behind her, solid and protective, seemed to change his mind. He left with a final glare, promising through his lawyer would be in touch. The moment the door closed, Alicia collapsed onto the couch. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. What if Malcolm was the father? What if she'd been wrong about the timeline? What if everything she'd built with Jae-sung was based on a mistake? "Hey." Jae-sung sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. "It's okay. We'll figure this out." "What if he's right?" she whispered. "What if the baby is his? Then we deal with it." His voice was steady. "But it changes nothing between us. You hear me? Nothing." "How can you say that?" She pulled back to look at him. If the baby isn't yours, if I've been wrong this whole time, it doesn't matter. He cupped her face. I'm not with you because of the baby. I'm with you because I love you, because you're smart and strong and beautiful, and you make me want to be better. The baby is part of that. But even if the paternity test says Malcolm is the father, you're still the woman I want to be with. That's easy to say now, Alicia said, her voice breaking. But when reality sets in, when you're helping raise another man's child, then I'll do it. He said it simply. People raise stepchildren all the time. It's not ideal, sure. But if it means I get to be with you, it's worth it. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that his love was that strong. But she'd believed in too many promises that got broken. Let's get the test, she said quietly. No, for sure. Then we can make decisions. Okay. He kissed her forehead gently. But whatever it says, I'm not going anywhere. Got it? She nodded, too emotionally exhausted to argue. The next few days were torture. Dr. Kim arranged for the paternity test, a simple blood draw that would provide answers within a week. Malcolm showed up with his lawyer, smug and confident. Jae-sung remained calm and steady, his hand never leaving Alicia's. But at night, she could hear him in the other room, talking quietly on the phone in Korean. Hear the stress in his voice, even if she couldn't understand the words. His mother's ultimatum, Malcolm's challenge, the uncertainty about the baby. It was all piling up. How much could one person take before they broke? You should reconsider, his mother had started calling again, leaving messages that Jae-sung deleted without listening. But one night, Alicia found him sitting in the dark, staring at his phone. She sent a picture, he said quietly, of me and my father, from when I was little. He showed her the photo, a young Jae-sung grinning up at a man who shared his eyes, both of them looking happy and carefree. She knows I miss him, knows that's my weak spot. She's manipulating you, Alicia said gently. I know. He set the phone down. But it still hurts. She sat beside him in the darkness, their shoulders touching. If you need to talk to her, if you need to try to fix things, I'll understand. There's nothing to fix until she accepts you, he said firmly. Until she treats you with respect. Until she stops trying to control my life. He turned to look at her. My father would have liked you, would have told my mother she was being foolish. He always said love was more important than tradition. He sounds like a good man. He was. Jae-sung's voice was thick with emotion. He taught me that real strength is knowing when to stand up for what matters, when to draw a line and hold it. I'm trying to make him proud. I'm sure you are, Alicia whispered. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other in the darkness, drawing strength from the contact. Whatever was coming, the paternity test results, his mother's continued interference, Malcolm's custody demands. At least they'd face it together. The results came back on a Wednesday. Dr. Kim called them into her office with a gentle smile that somehow made Alicia more nervous. Jae-sung squeezed her hand as they sat down. The test was conclusive, Dr. Kim said. Jae-sung, you are the biological father. There's no doubt. The relief was so intense, Alicia actually felt dizzy. Beside her, Jae-sung let out a breath he'd been holding for days. His hand tightened on hers almost painfully. You're sure? He asked. Completely sure? Completely. Dr. Kim slid the paperwork across her desk. I'll have copies sent to Malcolm's lawyer. This should settle any custody claims. Thank you, Alicia managed, her voice choked with emotion. Thank you so much. In the car, neither of them spoke for a long moment. Then Jae-sung pulled over into a random parking lot and just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, breathing hard. Jae-sung, I need a minute, he said roughly. I need a minute. She realized he was crying, silently, shoulders shaking, overcome with relief and emotion. She unbuckled her seatbelt and pulled him into her arms, letting him bury his face in her shoulder. "It's okay," she murmured. "It's okay. The baby is yours." "I know I said it didn't matter," he choked out. "I know I meant it. But God, I was so scared of losing you both." "You're not losing us." She held him tighter. "We're right here." They stayed like that until his breathing evened out, until he pulled back with a watery laugh. "Sorry, that was embarrassing." "That was human," she corrected. "And I love that you let me see it." He kissed her then, soft, sweet, and full of promise. Not the passionate kisses from before, but something deeper. Something that felt like coming home. "Marry me," he said when they broke apart. Alicia froze. "What?" "Marry me." He was already reaching into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I love you. I want to build a life with you. Want to be a family. Officially. Jae-sung." She stared at the ring, at his hopeful face. "Your mother." "Will come around or she won't," he said firmly. "But either way, I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. So please, will you marry me?" She should say no. Should point out all the reasons this was too soon, too complicated, too risky. Should protect her heart against the inevitable moment when reality crashed in, and he realized what he was giving up. But looking into his eyes, seeing the love and determination there, she found herself nodding. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile could have lit up the whole city. He slipped the ring onto her finger. A simple but beautiful design with a small diamond that caught the light. Then he kissed her again, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. They were so caught up in the moment that they didn't notice the car parked across the street, didn't see the woman in the back seat, watching them with cold, calculating eyes, didn't know that Jae-sung's mother had witnessed the entire proposal, and didn't know that she was already planning her next move. The next few weeks passed in a blur of happiness. They told Maya about the engagement, who squealed so loudly she probably broke a few windows. Started making plans for a small wedding. Nothing fancy, just close friends, and whatever family would come. Alicia's mother couldn't afford to fly from Malawi, but they video called her, and she cried tears of joy at the news. The pregnancy was progressing well. Alicia's morning sickness had finally eased, and she was starting to show just a small bump that Jae-sung couldn't stop touching with wonder. They spent hours looking at baby furniture online, debating names, imagining their future. It felt too good to last. And of course, it was. The first sign of trouble came when Jae-sung's business partner called an emergency meeting. Apparently, Mrs. Hwang had been working behind the scenes, convincing investors to pull out, spreading rumors about Jae-sung's judgment, systematically undermining everything he'd built. "I'm sorry," his partner said, looking genuinely regretful. "But if we want to save the company, you need to step back, at least temporarily." "She's destroying everything," Jae-sung said later that night, pacing the penthouse like a caged animal. "Years of work, relationships I spent a decade building, all of it, gone because she can't accept my choices. Maybe," Alicia hesitated, "maybe I should talk to her, try to reason with her." "No." He stopped pacing to look at her. "You're not going near her. She's already tried to hurt you once. I won't give her another chance." But 2 days later, Alicia got a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Miss Alicia." Mrs. Hwang's voice was cold and controlled. "We need to talk," I don't think my son is throwing away his future because of you. His business is failing. His reputation is ruined. Is that what you want? Of course not, Alicia said, fighting to keep her voice steady. But I'm not responsible for your actions. You're the one sabotaging him. I'm trying to save him from a mistake he'll regret forever. Mrs. Huang's tone softened slightly. I know you care about him. If that's true, you'll leave. Give him the chance to fix this before it's too late. He doesn't want me to leave. He thinks he doesn't. But wait until the money's really gone, until his friends abandon him, until he's struggling to support a wife and child on nothing. Then, see if he still looks at you with love, or with resentment. The words hit harder than Alicia wanted to admit, because hadn't she thought the same thing? Hadn't she worried about exactly that? I have a proposition, Mrs. Huang continued. Leave Charlotte. Go back to your country or anywhere else. Let Jae-sung believe you simply couldn't handle the pressure. I'll give you $500,000. Enough to start over, to give your child a good life. And I'll stop blocking my son's business. Let him rebuild. You want me to just disappear? I want you to do what's best for everyone involved. Mrs. Huang's voice was almost gentle now. Jae-sung will be hurt, but he'll move on, find someone suitable, have a good life, and you'll have the resources to build your own life. Your child will never want for anything. Except their father, Alicia whispered. They'll have 2 parents who love them. Isn't that enough? Alicia hung up, her hands shaking. She knew she should tell Jae-sung about the call immediately. Should let him know his mother was still trying to manipulate them. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the doubt that had been planted. Maybe it was the fear that Mrs. Huang was right. That night, she lay awake long after Jae-sung had fallen asleep, her hand on her growing bump, wondering if love was really enough. Wondering if she was being selfish by staying. Wondering if the best thing she could do for the man she loved was to let him go. She didn't know that Jae-sung was awake too, staring at the ceiling, making plans of his own. Didn't know that he'd already decided what he needed to do to protect their future. Didn't know that sometimes the hardest battles are fought in silence, and neither of them knew that the real test was still to come. 3 days later, Mrs. Huang showed up at the penthouse again. But this time, she wasn't alone. She'd brought Jae-sung's grandmother, his father's mother, a woman he adored and hadn't seen in years. A woman who'd always been kind to him, who'd taught him Korean folktales and made him special meals and treated him like her favorite person in the world. Halmeoni, Jae-sung breathed, opening the door to find the elderly woman standing there in traditional hanbok, leaning heavily on a cane. What are you doing here? Your mother told me everything, his grandmother said and saw him. Korean, then switched to careful English for Alicia's benefit. She told me you're throwing away your life. I had to come see for myself. And just like that, the game changed again. Because while Jae-sung could defy his mother, defying his grandmother was another thing entirely. Alicia watched from the hallway as he helped the old woman inside, saw the love and respect on his face, and felt her heart sink. This was it. This was the moment everything fell apart. Because how could she ask him to choose between her and the woman who'd helped raise him? How could she live with herself if she did? Mrs. Huang caught her eye over Jae-sung's shoulder and smiled. A small, triumphant smile that said she knew she'd won. And maybe she had. But Alicia wasn't giving up without a fight. Not anymore. Not when she had so much to lose. So she straightened her spine, put her hand on her belly, and walked into the living room, ready to face whatever came next. The grandmother settled onto the couch with Jae-sung's help, her sharp eyes taking in everything. The expensive furniture, the view, and most importantly, Alicia standing there with her small baby bump visible beneath her dress. "So," the old woman said, patting the seat beside her, "you are the girl who has stolen my grandson's heart. Come, sit with me." Alicia exchanged a glance with Jae-sung, who looked nervous but nodded encouragingly. She sat, feeling the grandmother's gaze sweep over her like a scanner. "Halmeoni, please," Mrs. Huang started. "I brought you here to help Jae-sung see reason." "Hush." The grandmother waved her hand dismissively. "I'm old, not deaf. Let me talk to the girl myself." She turned back to Alicia. "Tell me, why do you love my grandson?" The question caught Alicia off guard. Because he's kind. Because he makes me feel safe. Because when I'm with him, I feel like I can be myself without pretending to be someone I'm not. And you're willing to deal with all this?" The grandmother gestured around. His mother's anger, the cultural differences, being far from your own family. "I'm willing to try," Alicia said honestly. "I won't pretend it's easy. I won't pretend I'm not scared. But I love him. And I love this baby. And that has to count for something." The grandmother studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to Jae-sung. "And you? You're willing to lose everything for this girl?" "She's not this girl, Halmeoni." Jae-sung moved to stand beside Alicia, his hand finding hers. "Her name is Alicia. She's smart and strong, and she's carrying my child. And yes, I'm willing to lose everything except her." "Everything?" His grandmother's eyebrows rose. "Your business? Your family? Your inheritance? If it comes to that, yes." Mrs. Huang made a sound of distress. "You see? This is what I've been trying to tell you. He's being irrational." I said, "Hush." The grandmother's voice was sharp. Then she sighed, looking suddenly tired. "Your father was like this too, you know. Stubborn. Willing to fight the whole world for what he believed in." She reached out, touching Jae-sung's face gently. "He married your mother against his own parents' wishes. Did you know that?" Jae-sung blinked. "What?" "She wasn't from the right family. Wasn't what they wanted." The grandmother smiled sadly. "But he loved her. Fought for her. Eventually. We accepted it. Because we saw how happy he was. How complete." Mrs. Huang looked stricken. "Halmeoni. That was different. How?" The grandmother turned to her. "How is it different? Because this girl is from Africa instead of a different region of Korea? Because her skin is darker? Because she doesn't know our customs yet?" She shook her head. "You've become what you once fought against. Rigid. Unforgiving. Cruel. I'm trying to protect my son. You're trying to control him." The grandmother's voice was firm. "And in doing so, you're losing him. Just like you almost lost your husband when you pushed too hard about having children right away. Remember that fight. Remember how he moved out for 2 months?" Alicia felt Jae-sung's hand tighten on hers. Clearly this was family history he'd never heard. Mrs. Huang's face crumpled slightly. We were young. It was different. It's never different when it comes to love and family." The grandmother turned back to Alicia and Jae-sung. "I'm not saying this will be easy. Cultural differences are real. Family expectations matter. But," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "but I've lived 83 years. I've seen marriages that looked perfect on paper fall apart. And I've seen marriages everyone predicted would fail last forever. You know what the difference was?" "What?" Alicia whispered. "Respect, partnership, willingness to fight for each other instead of against each other." She looked at Jae-sung. "Does she respect you? Do you respect her?" "Yes," they said together. Are you willing to learn about each other's cultures? To teach your child about both? Yes, Alicia said firmly. I want our baby to know Korean traditions, want them to speak the language, know the food, understand where their father comes from. And you? The grandmother looked at Jae-sung. Will you honor her heritage too, even though it's unfamiliar? I've already been learning, Jae-sung said, about Malawi, about her family, about what matters to her. I want our child to be proud of both sides. The grandmother nodded slowly. Then she stood, steadying herself with her cane. Then you have my blessing. Not that you need it, but you have it anyway. Aomeone, you can't be serious, Mrs. Huang started. I'm very serious. The grandmother moved toward the door, then paused. You can continue this war if you want. Can cut him off, ruin his business, make their lives difficult. But you'll lose your son, lose your grandchild, lose the chance to be part of their lives. She looked at Mrs. Huang with something like pity. Is your pride really worth that much? Mrs. Huang stood frozen, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. He's all I have left of his father. Then stop pushing him away. The grandmother's voice softened. Your husband wouldn't have wanted this. He would have welcomed this girl, would have been excited about a grandchild, no matter who the mother was. Something in Mrs. Huang's expression cracked. She looked at Jae-sung, really looked at him, and seemed to see for the first time how much this was hurting him, how much he'd already sacrificed. I need time, she said finally. I can't just accept this overnight. We're not asking you to, Alicia said, surprising herself by speaking up. We're just asking you to try, to get to know me before you decide I'm not good enough, to give us a chance. Mrs. Huang's eyes met hers. For a moment, Alicia saw past the cold exterior to the scared, grieving woman underneath, woman who'd lost her husband and was terrified of losing her son too. One dinner, Mrs. Huang said stiffly. I'll have one dinner with you both. No promises beyond that. That's all we're asking, Jae-sung said quietly. The grandmother smiled. Good. Now, help me to the car. I'm exhausted. As Jae-sung moved to assist her, she caught Alicia's hand. You're stronger than you look, girl. You'll need that strength. But I think you'll be good for him. Good for this family. After they left, Alicia and Jae-sung stood in the suddenly quiet penthouse, still processing what had just happened. Did your grandmother just take our side? Alicia asked. I think she did. Jae-sung pulled her into his arms. I think she really did. And your mother. Baby steps, he murmured into her hair. But it's more than we had yesterday. Over the next few weeks, things slowly started to shift. Mrs. Huang didn't suddenly become warm and welcoming, but she stopped actively sabotaging Jae-sung's business. She showed up for that dinner, stiff and formal. But she showed up. Asked Alicia careful questions about her life, her family, her plans for the baby. It wasn't perfect. There were still tense moments, still cultural misunderstandings, still times when Mrs. Huang's disapproval was obvious. But she was trying, and that was enough for now. Jae-sung rebuilt his business connections slowly, working twice as hard to prove himself again. Alicia enrolled in online classes to finish her degree, determined to contribute to their future. They went to every doctor's appointment together, watched the baby grow on ultrasound screens, picked out names late at night while lying in bed. The wedding was small, held in a courthouse with Maya and a few of Jae-sung's friends as witnesses. Mrs. Huang didn't come, but she sent a gift, a traditional Korean baby blanket that her mother-in-law had made. The grandmother came, though, dressed in her finest handbook, crying happy tears as they exchanged vows. I promise to love you through the hard times, Jae-sung said, holding Alicia's hands. To fight for us. To never give up on what we're building. I promise to trust you, Alicia said, tears streaming down her face. To let you in even when I'm scared. To believe that love is enough. And maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. But standing there in that courthouse, with their baby growing between them and a future full of uncertainty ahead, they were willing to find out. 3 months later, Alicia went into labor on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Jae-sung drove like a maniac to the hospital, holding her hand through every contraction, whispering encouragement in both English and Korean. "You've got this," he kept saying. "You're so strong, so incredible." "I'm dying," she groaned. "This baby is killing me." "You're not dying. You're bringing life. Our life." 12 hours later, their daughter was born. Tiny and perfect with a shock of dark hair and lungs that could wake. Art the dead. They named her Grace Thandiwe Hwang. Grace for new beginnings. Thandiwe meaning beloved in Chichewa. When the nurse placed her in Alicia's arms, the world seemed to stop. This tiny person, this perfect blend of both of them, this miracle they'd fought so hard for. "She's beautiful," Jae-sung whispered, his finger tracing their daughter's tiny hand. "She's perfect." "She looks like you," Alicia said, noting the baby's eyes, the shape of her face. "She looks like us," he corrected. The door opened, and Mrs. Hwang walked in, moving hesitantly like she wasn't sure of her welcome. But when she saw the baby, something in her face softened completely. All the hardness, all the resistance, all the anger. It melted away. "May I?" she asked quietly. Alicia nodded, watching as Jae-sung carefully transferred Grace into his mother's arms. Mrs. Hwang stared down at her granddaughter, tears rolling down her cheeks. "She's beautiful," she whispered in Korean, then in English. "So, beautiful." She looked up at Alicia. "Thank you. For giving my son this gift. For giving me this gift." It wasn't forgiveness exactly. Wasn't a complete reconciliation. But it was a start. A bridge being built one careful step at a time. As Alicia watched her new family, her husband gazing at their daughter with wonder, her mother-in-law finally letting down her walls, this tiny baby who'd brought them all together, she felt something settle in her chest. Peace, maybe. Or hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would still be challenges, still cultural differences to navigate, still hard conversations to have. But looking at the 3 generations in that hospital room, all connected by love and blood and choice, she knew they'd figure it out. Because sometimes love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about fighting through the hard parts. It's about building something new from broken pieces and refusing to give up when things get tough. And as Grace opened, her tiny eyes, looking up at the faces surrounding her with wonder, Alicia knew without a doubt that every struggle had been worth it. Every tear, every fight, every moment of fear and uncertainty. It had all led to this, to family, to love, to home. 6 months later, Alicia graduated with her business degree, walking across that stage with Jae-sung and Grace cheering from the audience. Mrs. Hwang was there too, holding Grace and looking proud despite herself. A year after that, they bought a house. Not a penthouse, but a real home with a yard and space for Grace to grow. Mrs. Hwang helped them move in, even bringing Korean dishes for the housewarming. The grandmother came too, teaching Alicia traditional recipes and telling Grace stories in Korean. It wasn't the fairy tale Alicia had imagined as a girl. It was messier, more complicated, harder won. But standing in their backyard, watching Jae-sung push Grace on her new swing set, while his mother and grandmother argued, affectionately over the best way to make kimchi, She realized it was better than any fairy tale, because it was real. It was theirs. And it was enough. "Hey," Jae-sung called out, walking over with Grace giggling in his arms. "What are you thinking about?" "How far we've come," Alicia said, taking their daughter and pressing a kiss to her forehead. "How much we've survived. And how much more we're going to survive," he added, wrapping his arms around them both. "Together. Together," she agreed. And in that moment, with her family surrounding her and the future stretching out full of possibility, Alicia finally believed it. Believed in happy endings and second chances and love that conquers all, because theirs had. There it is. From a break room firing to a backyard full of family and laughter. Drop a like if you're feeling grateful for love stories that don't give up. And comment telling me if you've ever had to win over a tough mother-in-law, because those stories are always wild. Hit subscribe so you never miss these feel-good tales that prove love really can conquer the impossible.